What would you do if your bosses stopped paying your full salary? All while flaunting their new cars and luxury shopping sprees online? In today's story, the protagonist's choice is a masterclass in how to handle it. I used to work for a married couple. Martin, who was 52, and Gloria, 44. They owned a business that couldn't quite figure out what it wanted to be. In the year I was there, it went from a business services and public relations agency to an IT provider, then a business incubator, and finally, indie beer partners. It felt like they were trying to dip their donut in everyone's coffee. As the saying goes, Martin was the baby-faced, next-door neighbor type, looking a decade younger than he was, with a kind smile and a soft-spoken, artistic flair. His office walls were a shrine to his heroes, lined with posters of Steve Jobs and Elon Musk. Gloria, his wife, had a matronly, Mother Earth vibe when it came to her kids, priding herself on being ruthless to give her family the best. She could be nice, but I learned quickly she was an expert at gossip and being two-faced. She was the chief enabling officer, plastering corporate speak names on every door. The main employee area was the machine room. Martin's office was the chamber, and the conference room was a meeting of the minds. This facade of success and creativity crumbled under the reality of their poor management. They started paying us only a portion of our weekly salaries. Then, maybe for a month, they'd pay the normal rate before the incomplete payment started all over again. All the while, they never cut back on their own luxuries. Gloria would post about her shopping sprees or weekend spa trips on Facebook, with captions about rewarding herself after a hard week or because she deserved it. There were 8 of us on staff, and we were expected to pay for their luxuries with our missing wages. It was insensitive and showed zero empathy. Martin was obsessed with making it big, so much so that he often missed real opportunities right in front of him. He claimed he used to be a brand manager for Coca-Cola, but I searched for it and never found a single shred of proof. One afternoon, a young Latino couple came in, baby in a stroller and all. They seemed to have just impulsively stopped by, looking for help setting up a coffee import-export business with beans from their family's farm. I talked to them and got them settled in the waiting room. But when Martin finally came out, he listened for a minute before giving them an abrupt, dismissive farewell. Martin made a classic short-sighted move at that moment, so blinded by his hunt for a whale that he failed to see the school of lucrative fish swimming right in front of him. He was completely unaware that this exact brand of arrogance would later become the very tool used for his own humiliation. I later saw that same couple on Facebook. They had found someone else and successfully opened their business. That could have been Martin's win. The environment was toxic. During brainstorming sessions, which weren't even in my job description, they just wanted to pick our brains for free ideas. If you disagreed with Martin, Gloria would pull you aside later. "Billy is your boss," she'd say. "You need to know that he is brilliant and a genius. I want him to have that taste of success." This reveals Gloria's greatest role in the company, the chief enabling officer. Her need to protect her husband's fragile ego, no matter the cost to their employees or the business itself, ultimately sealed their fate by ensuring his worst impulses went unchecked. If you ever got angry about the situation, she'd hit you with some social guru phrase like, "Remember, the one who gets angry is the one who ends up losing." Most of us felt stuck. One of my coworkers was 67 and terrified no one else would hire her. You can't just leave when you have no other job waiting. And as pathetic as it sounds, some income feels better than none. It's an involuntary, abusive compromise. Some people might wonder why I didn't just file an official wage complaint. It sounds like the logical path. But when you're in that position, you're afraid of being fired on the spot with nothing to fall back on. You feel powerless. That feeling of powerlessness festered until I had an idea. It was a long shot, born out of desperation. My best friend's ex, Leo, is a wizard with coding and programming. I reached out and asked for his help. We decided that if it didn't work, at least we'd get a good laugh out of it. The plan was to use Martin's own ego against him. Leo created a flawless fake website for a non-existent investment company, complete with a professional-looking LinkedIn profile for the investor. This wasn't going to be some desperate plea for attention. Our fake investor would be casual, almost aloof. The operation began subtly. The fake investor account started by liking Martin's company Facebook page, then leaving a few engaging comments. As we predicted, Martin took the bait. Soon, they were exchanging emails. Martin, ever the showman, eagerly shared all his projects and ambitious shit, desperate to impress. This was the critical turning point. Martin's insatiable greed and his desperation to be seen as the next great innovator made him the perfect mark. He failed to see that the bait was designed not to steal his money, but to force him to fulfill his own legal and moral obligations. Our investor seemed interested but demanded due diligence. He sent Martin a list of requirements to prove the company was a legitimate and stable operation before any investment talks could proceed. The list included things like a proof of concept, the company's EIN, and, most importantly, records confirming that the employee payroll was completely up to date. We never asked for any bank account details or truly confidential information. We were simply baiting his greedy character, telling him that if he could prove everything was in order, a major investment would follow. A colleague who stayed on a bit longer than I did told me that Martin started strutting around the office, announcing to everyone that big things are coming. He was high on the promise of finally making it big. Then, the miracle happened. Within 3 weeks, I saw my full paycheck deposit in my bank account, the full equivalent of the 2.5 months of wages I was owed. He had paid everyone what he owed them, making the payments to each worker as he normally would. He didn't get scammed into wiring money to a fake website. He was catfished into getting up to date with the salaries he legally owed his employees. Once my back pay was secure, I left that job as fast as I could, with the payroll documents theoretically in order. Our investor did a complete 180 and vanished, never contacting Martin again. My friend who remained said Martin seemed off and visibly deflated after his big thing suddenly evaporated into thin air. I never told a soul what really happened. In the end, the story is a powerful reminder that sometimes the most effective way to get justice is to understand your oppressor's weaknesses and use their own greed and ego as the weapon against them. When the system fails you, is it justified to create your own solution, even if it's unconventional? What would you have done in my situation?